The night was silent, save for the soft hum of the dream monitors patrolling the streets. Eli lay in his bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling that flickered with the shadows of passing monitors. In this world, dreaming was a luxury few could afford, and Eli had spent his nights in restless wakefulness, yearning for an escape. That was until he found the loophole, a glitch in the system, a momentary lapse that allowed him to slip into dreams undetected. It was during these stolen moments of slumber that Eli's mind soared, painting worlds of color and hope against the drab canvas of his reality. And tonight, he was ready to share his secret, to ignite a spark that could set their world ablaze. With a soft whisper, he slipped a hand-drawn map from under his pillow. The map led to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, where he and a few trusted friends would meet in the dead of night. There, they would share his discovery and begin planning their resistance against the dream tax, against the tyrannical regime that sought to control every aspect of their lives. Eli waited, his heart pounding with anticipation and fear. Would anyone believe him? Would they join him? As the minutes ticked by, he could almost feel the weight of the world pressing down on his chest, the suffocating reality of their situation threatening to crush his hope. But then, a soft knock at the door. It was a girl from his class, her eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and desperation. She nodded gratefully as he slipped her the map, and together they crept into the night. One by one, they gathered at the warehouse, their numbers growing with each passing moment. Some were skeptical, their eyes darting around warily. But as Eli spoke of the dreams he'd had and the worlds he'd seen, their faces began to soften, their postures relax. They shared their own stories, their own dreams, and in that moment, Eli knew they were all in. They were a team now, a family bound together by the shared belief that dreams were worth fighting for. As the first rays of dawn crept through the cracks in the warehouse walls, they swore an oath to one another, promising to fight against the dream tax and reclaim their right to dream. And with that, they began planning their first act of resistance. They would strike against the heart of the regime, targeting the dream monitors themselves, crippling their ability to control and tax their dreams. It was a risky plan, but they knew it was their only chance. Eli looked around at the faces of his newfound brothers and sisters, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of hope ignite within him. They were going to make it, he could feel it. They were going to take back their dreams, and together, they would change the world. As they continued to plan their attack, the details began to fall into place, each one more daring and ingenious than the last. They would infiltrate the dream tax office, sabotaging their systems and setting their records ablaze. They would hack into the dream monitors, reprogramming them to broadcast false signals, sending the entire city into a frenzy of stolen dreams. And when the time was right, they would strike, launching a full-scale revolution against the very heart of the regime. But first, they needed to gather supplies. Eli volunteered to lead the way, his knowledge of the city's underground passageways proving invaluable. They moved through the shadows like ghosts, silent and deadly, their every step a calculated risk. The air was thick with tension, but there was an unspoken understanding between them, a bond forged in their shared dreams and their shared suffering. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the world would soon know their name. As they finally emerged from the darkness, blinking in the harsh light of day, Eli felt a weight lifting from his chest. They had done it. They had survived their first mission together. And now, with each passing moment, they grew stronger, more united. They were no longer just a group of rebels, they were a family, and together, they would bring freedom to a world that had forgotten what it meant to dream. The supplies they'd gathered were meager at best, but they were enough to get started. Eli led them to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, a place they could call their own for now. As they set up camp, the air was thick with excitement and anticipation. The dreamers had found their home, and they were ready to fight. The first order of business was to set up a communications network, a way to coordinate their efforts without being tracked by the dream tax. Eli volunteered to lead the charge, his technical expertise proving invaluable once more. As they worked together, stringing up lines of code and wires throughout the warehouse, they began to feel like a well-oiled machine, each cog and gear working in perfect harmony. The next day, they began training, honing their skills in stealth and combat. They practiced infiltration techniques, learning how to move through the shadows unseen, and how to disable the dream monitors without raising an alarm. They sparred with wooden swords, their bodies aching from the exertion, but their spirits only growing stronger. They were warriors now, ready to take back what had been stolen from them. And then, finally, it was time to strike. Eli stood before them, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. He outlined their plan, his voice steady and resolute. They would sneak into the Dream Tax office under the cover of night, sabotaging their systems and setting their records ablaze. It would be a daring raid, but they knew it was their only chance. As they prepared to launch their attack, Eli couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. They had come so far, from a group of frightened dreamers to a force to be reckoned with. They were no longer powerless, no longer victims. They were the resistance, and the world was about to learn their name. Their fingers trembled as they grabbed onto the ropes that would lower them into the darkness, but their eyes were filled with determination, with the unshakable belief that they were doing the right thing. They were reclaiming their dreams, and nothing would stop them. As they descended into the darkness, they whispered to one another, promising that this was only the beginning. For they were the dreamers, and the dreamers would never die. The Dream Tax office was a hive of activity, the hum of computers and the soft glow of monitors filling the air. They moved through the shadows like wraiths, silent and deadly, their every step a calculated risk. Eli signaled to his team, and they sprang into action, sabotaging the computers and setting the records ablaze. The alarms blared, but it was too late. They had done it. They had struck a blow against the oppressive regime that had stolen their dreams. As they made their way back to the ropes, their hearts pounding with adrenaline and triumph, they knew that this was only the beginning. Their actions would inspire others to rise up, to fight back against the tyranny that had held them down for so long. They were no longer powerless, no longer victims. They were the resistance, and the world was about to learn their name. In the weeks that followed, their numbers grew, as more and more people joined their cause. They spread across the city like wildfire, striking at the heart of the Dream Tax, sabotaging their systems and freeing those who had been trapped within their clutches. They became a legend, a myth, a symbol of hope for a people who had all but given up on their dreams. And as they fought, they honed their skills, becoming an unstoppable force, a well-oiled machine, a family. They trained together, sparred together, and dreamt together. They shared their stories of suffering and loss, of hope and redemption, and in those shared moments, they found strength, they found purpose, they found home. The day of their final assault dawned bright and clear, the sky a perfect shade of blue that seemed to mock the oppressors. They gathered in the abandoned warehouse, their hearts full of determination and their eyes shining with a fierce light. Eli stood before them, his voice steady and strong, his words carrying the weight of 1,000 dreams. "Today," he said, "we take back what is ours." And with that they charged, their weapons raised, their voices raised in defiance, their hearts filled with the unstoppable power of hope. They fought their way through the ranks of the Dream Tax, their training honed to a razor's edge, their unity unbreakable. They were a force of nature, a wave crashing against the shore, unstoppable and inexorable. They moved as one, each knowing their role, each knowing their strengths, each knowing that their actions would not only free themselves, but free an entire world. As they neared the center of the city, the heart of the Dream Tax, the fighting grew fiercer, the stakes higher. But they did not waver. They fought on, their determination unyielding, their faith in one another unshakable. They were the resistance, and they were unstoppable. Finally, they reached their destination. The grand headquarters of the Dream Tax, a towering edifice of glass and steel that had once represented the oppressor's power, now stood as a symbol of their victory. Eli raised his sword, the blade gleaming in the sunlight, and shouted, "For the dreamers!" And with that they charged, their cries echoing off the towering walls, their fury unleashed. The battle was brutal, but it was short. The dream tax had not expected such a coordinated attack, such a well-prepared resistance. They were overwhelmed, their defenses shattered, their power broken. And as the last of their soldiers fell, as the last of their dreams were freed, Eli looked out over the city, now filled with the sounds of laughter and the joyous cries of people reclaiming their lives, their dreams, their futures. He turned to his comrades, his friends, his family. They were battered, bruised, bloodied, but they stood tall, unbowed. They had done it. They had won. They had saved their world, and in doing so, they had found their home. For they were the dreamers, and the dreamers would never die. The dream would live on, in their hearts, in their minds, in their shared memories, and in the stories they would tell for generations to come. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories, give us a like if you want to see more, and drop a comment below to let us know your thoughts.